Hi, I'm Luke, and I'm here today to talk about sustainable strategic decisions of Goldman Sachs. Uh, an, o- an overview of Goldman Sachs is that they're a leading global investment banking firm focusing on securities and providing a financial service to um, corporations, financial institutes, governments, and individuals. The company employs just over 40,000 people across 33 different countries. Uh, First of all, we're going to be talking about board of directors and got board of directors of Goldman Sachs, most notably. A short um, depiction of board of directors is that they provide a clear and competitive advantage that could help build um, connections with the government, society, and other stakeholders in providing information to make business decisions. So Goldman Sachs, their position on board of directors is that they are made up of 12 people to facilitate all to be facilitated all on all the committees. Goldman Sachs chooses to have five committees: the audit committee, compensation committee, uh, corporate governance and nominating committee, risk committee, and public responsibility committee. Uh, 9 out of its 10 members, board members, are sat on the corporate governance committee. Only one member is chooses not to be on that. Um, as we can see, that the chairman and co-CEO and CEO David Solomon has a duo position, uh, taking hold of both of those positions. Uh, in the UK and Europe, the having both the chairman and CEO as the same person is not really known. But over in the US, having both of them together is more commonly used. So when this happens, a lead director is often used, an independent director, and in this case, Adebayo Angelusi is that lead director, and he'll take chair of all the committee meetings. As we can see with the table on the right hand side, it can clearly state that um, who is in which committee. As you can see in the middle column, the governance and nominating committee, all but one is in that committee meeting. Um, the committee board members are reviewed annually. This to make sure that uh, the right people are doing the right job per se, um, and to keep it fresh and to make sure there's um, nothing, no like lazy thinking really. Um, yeah, as you can see, the lead director Adebayo Angelusi is the chair and sits in all the other committees. When we're comparing the Goldman Sachs board of directors and the committees, JP Morgan only has 3 out of its 10 committee members sitting on the governance board, basically showing that the focus of Goldman Sachs is to target governance and to make sure that everybody in the board of directors has a view on which direction the company should be going in. Obviously, JP Morgan probably doesn't have that same approach towards its board members. So, corporate governance as a whole, we're looking at a way in which suppliers of finances to corporations assure themselves are getting a return on their investment. So basically, when they're investing so much money into the company, to make sure there's structure in place to make sure that they're getting some returns and that the money's being invested responsibly. One approach adopts a narrow view where corporations is restricted to the relationship between the company and its shareholders. This is often referred to as age theory, shareholder theory. Um, and this is encapsulated by the Cadbury report, by which the systems by which companies are directed and controlled. It's further explained that the board of directors are responsible for the governance of the company, while the shareholders are responsible for appointing the directors and auditors. Um, So another approach is seen as a web of relations, a wider view, incorporates the view of employees, customers, suppliers. This is known as the stakeholder approach. Um, so corporate governance is concerned with holding the balance between economic and social goals, between the individuals and communal goals. The corporate governance framework is there to encourage the efficient use of resources and equally require accountability for stewardship for those resources. The aim is to align as nearly possible to the interests of individuals, corporations, and society. Other corporate governance approaches, the rules-based view and principles-based view, another scale of the US versus the UK or Europe, whereas the rules is mainly where US companies are required by law to comply with established principles of corporate governance, whereas the principles is no one set of rules is appropriate for every company, and guidelines are more applicable. Also, the agency theory, as previously mentioned. Um, so when looking at Goldman Sachs' scandals and problems they've had in the past with corporate governance, one stands out and has been in the news quite a lot is the one of the 1MBDB, which in 2009 was a Malaysian government-controlled investment fund, which was created by the then Prime Minister Najib Razak with the purpose of attracting foreign investment in developing communities in Malaysia. Well, that was the case, and that's what they targeted. But in fact, it is known as one of the major or one of the worst financial heists in all time, with a possible of $10 billion in looted deals. Um, so what this deal was a fund which was set up by 1MBD DB, sorry, and Goldman Sachs. Um, so hundreds of millions of dollars were allegedly stolen to steal, not stolen, but looted to steal an election and to keep the then prime minister in power for another 5 years. And basically, what happened was after that happened, he did regain power, and his closest competitors were sadly murdered due to due to the corruption within the political party. Um, from May 2012 and March 2013, Goldman was involved and managed three non-bid privately placed bond issues amounting to 6.5 billion from investors, and Goldman's stake was 600 million. This was 200 times more than any fee Goldman charged. We've got to wonder why this wasn't kind of brought up or reviewed. Um, so after the third bond of $3 billion was offered, the prime minister won the election by the tightest margin, and it's reported that the money from this fund was used to increase interactions for the prime minister's election across the country. So the seriousness of this was that two of the former bankers was criminally charged by the Department of Justice, and one of the more senior executives who was in on this was placed on leave. What you've got to kind of think about is the generation of this 600 million for Goldman was the fact that the co-CEO at the time of investment banking was David Solomon, who I did mention earlier is the current CEO and chairman. We wonder why this wasn't brought up or kind of looked at, whether there was some dealings behind it. Moving on to socially responsible investments, SRI, as it's also known. It's the integrating of personal values and societal concerns with investment decisions. And according to Social Investment Fund, nearly 11% of professional management assets in the US are involved with social responsibility. Um, as the number of 11% is quite low, you got to wonder why that is, and that is due to the fact that there's no financial framework to relate marginal social responsibility in the performance of the investments. Um, so, looking at Goldman Sachs and their social responsibility, they have a few key areas which they have focused on in the past and still focus on now. One of which is the Urban Investment Group's 1,000 Small Business Initiative. Um this was set up just after the recession of 2008, whereas 45 in the US, 45% of all employment, no, 2.5 million of all small businesses represent 45% of all employment, and 65% of all new jobs. From the recession in 2008, 60% of all job losses came from small businesses. Um, as we can tell, that a lot of the employment within the US comes from the small businesses. Really, um, this is this is followed on with from a quote from Dr. Jeff Cornwell, who is a United States Association of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, stated that small businesses are innovation enablers, basically meaning that the smaller size of the business makes it easier and cheaper to try new approaches who are fueled by passionate business owners who are willing to take risk. So basically, the 10,000 Small Business Initiative is trying to tackle the urban development and equipping small business owners with the right tools to expand and create jobs, such as education, capital, and business support activities. So basically, it's made up of three components. Firstly, a practical business management curriculum for small businesses. Um, so Goldman's contribution was 200 million to the program, offering funding to community colleges, universities, business schools, and private scholarships in order for business owners to gain education and further their expansion of the business. So a further 300 million was through a combination of lending and philanthropic support for community development and financial institutions in order to help them gain financial um, more finances for the business to. Um, the final point for the 10,000 Small Business Initiative was the using of Goldman Sachs's capabilities and resources. So as we know, Goldman Sachs is a market leader in investment banking. It operates with 40,000 employees across 33 countries. So they have a lot of resources, and they've took it on themselves to uh, use these capabilities to support and promote the small businesses by providing small task force to help them with decisions, basically. So going on to the next point, which is one of a more current, up-to-date social responsible investments, is that um, Goldman Sachs are only going to be looking at helping companies with IPOs, help companies go public with at least one diverse member, and going into 21, at least two diverse board members. David Solomon, who is the CEO, announced that Goldman Sachs are committing to driving diversity in the workplace, and their clients they also seek to increase diversity and experience, diversity of experience in gender identity, race, ethnicity, social orientation, and board members to reduce the groupthink decision making and unlock creative, impactful solutions. So from July 1st, 2020, Goldman Sachs will only underwrite IPOs in the US and Europe of private companies with at least one diverse board member. Um, in 60 companies in the US and Europe went public in the last 2 years without a diverse board member, and this is being due to candidates being primarily picked with CEO and CFO experience, causing candidates from diverse groups to be overlooked for positions they have decades of experience in and important skills that could help companies make better decisions, driving enhanced returns of shareholders. For many years, it's been proven that a diverse boardroom improves performance. Um, and as we can see with Goldman Sachs, they have 6 out of its 10 board members coming from a diverse background. Most notably, the lead director, Adebayo Angelusi, who sits as lead director. When we compare this to JP Morgan, as we have done before, they only have 3 out of the 10 board members coming from a diverse background. So I'd put Goldman Sachs as a market leader, as a front runner in kind of diversity within the boardroom. They are looking to help improve um, the problem in the current world of diversity um, and problems like that. Um, so a problem which Goldman Sachs has in relation to social responsible investments is their EGS report, so that environmental, social, and government scores are much higher than JP Morgan. So according to Yahoo Finance, a social risk of 14.2 and a governance risk of 16.2. This is compared to 11.9 and 8.9, respectively, compared to JP Morgan. So JP Morgan are doing their bit better in relation to the social and governance scores of the EGS report. And like I said, another problem which Goldman Sachs had was the 1MDB scandal, which I believe is a reason why they have taken a step in the right direction in social responsibility. So looking at social responsibility, social responsible investments, also comes corporate responsibility, social responsibility, CSR. And a quote from Larty is, even though the goal of every firm is to make a sustainable profit, that goal should not be followed without guidelines, rules, and values that take into account moral and ethical dimensions of conducting business. Accelerating climate transitions and inclusive economic growth. They also set 750 billion in financing, advising, and investing activities over the next 10 years. So value creation. Goldman Sachs is primarily an intangible company providing financial services to clients. The investment banking arm of the company is, I'd put in the cash cow, as it's a low market growth but high market share. This creates one of the largest percentages of returns for the company. It creates 20.8% of the income at 7.5 billion. The mobile app Marcus, I'd put in the question mark because it's a low market share, high market growth. It's quite new, but there's still room to move. Investment into private companies. So over the years, they've moved mainly from public companies to private, as they see more value in getting there early, keeping the money there, which is the downside, keeping the money liquid in that company for a number of years for a high payout. So investments for value creation. So value creation comes from activities that generate outputs worth more than the input costs. Sound financial management and capital investments decisions are critical to survival and long-term success for the firm. And a feature for any investment analysis is the discount rate of return, which takes into consideration value time for money. Techniques for analysis: economic EVA or economic value added, NPV or IRR, but there are limitations to using these. They're equipped to deal with investments that have cash flows occurring between the beginning and the end of the investments. Modern approaches, the real options. So most capital investment projects have options. So option to expand, abandon, wait. Yeah. So a discussion of what we've just mentioned is how I'd see expansion for the company, and I'd personally view the 10,000 small businesses as a good expansion for the company. So not just focusing on the US, but focusing on other countries like the UK or Europe or emerging countries that I'd see that as a potential for uh, Goldman Sachs to get in early with these companies and help them grow. Small business lender. So at the moment, they are not a they don't offer loans or anything like that um, to small businesses. But with the introduction of Marcus, which will be the storefront for the company, they'll they should be able to use this as a new revenue stream. Investment into emerging markets, like I said earlier, their investment over the years has started to decline in emerging markets, but compared to competitors such as JP Morgan, their investments have increased uh, in emerging markets. That's it. Thank you.